Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka.
It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast where every 2 weeks we come together and discuss an anime we've recently watched in a book club format, and then we turn our discussion over to our listeners to carry on whatever ideas we started or got very, very wrong. We are talking about part 2 of Spy Family. We have already discussed part 1 a while ago because they were split up into different seasons, and so we've come back around. Spy Family Part 2. It's episodes 13 through 25 on Crunchyroll. It's been released. We finally got around to watching it, and that's what we'll be discussing today. To do so, I need the help of my co-host. So first off, and he's about to tell you an anime that he likes or dislikes. That's to let you know his taste. But first, we're gonna introduce him. He is the Jack Russell to my terrier. It's Jeremy. How are you doing, Jeremy?
Good. My fallback is Iria Zerum animation because I totally forgot. So yeah, that's an awesome anime. You need to go watch that one. These guys will back me up. They loved it.
I do like it. I think it's aged.
I'm not sure about love, but it was highly. I really did like the storyline.
Uh-huh.
Execution wasn't fantastic.
90s execution.
I have rose-colored glasses of it because it was one of those early anime that you like when there was no anime to watch. Everyone could see Akira, and that was about it because you could rent it. It was one of those movies you could check out. It was like, oh yeah, this is cool anime. Now you watch it and you're like, well, they were doing their best.
Yep.
All right, we also have the chi to my wawa. It's Jason. How you doing?
Chihuahua.
Ah, fun fact. No
fun fact allowed in this podcast.
Zero. When I was a teenager, I would spend some summers over at Jeremy's, and he had the most demonist Chihuahua that existed on the planet, and it hated me, and I hated it.
Are you sure that was a Chihuahua? We had a poodle.
Poodle.
It had Chihuahua blood in it, I swear.
No.
Whatever it is, it was a demon, and it wanted to eat my face.
Okay,
That's
so
true.
Jason's correct that it was a demon.
Yes.
That's true. It was definitely a poodle because it was super gross looking too. Whenever it was shaved.
It was.
I think I've mentioned this before, but it's coming about that time that I watch every year is Mushishi. Please watch that if you haven't seen it. So good. So good.
And my name is Troy, and I'm gonna pick Fooly Cooly because that is an anime that I have to come back to all the time. I love the humor. I love the style of it. You're outing yourself. That is considered one of the greats.
Listen, just appeals to authority. That's fallacious. So
okay, we need to get on with the show, but guys, I need to have a quick sidebar. No spoilers, but no, not that. Demon Hunter had an ending,
Demon
guys.
Slayer?
Demon Slayer. Even
they don't just hunt them; they slay them.
Slay them. They're not even really demons; they should be called vampires. Anyway, guys, that ended. I mean, Dragon Balls is still going. Goku is still getting new stories in manga form. There's gonna be more seasons of Super made. Naruto had a son who got his own show. Bleach is back. That show just ended, or I don't know. I don't think the anime has ended yet, but I didn't know Shonen could do that.
yeah, that's very strange.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes me want to watch it though.
It blows my mind too because of they had 2 movies.
I know the train one. I think they had another one. Yeah.
they did the train movie, but then they redid it in anime form for some reason.
But like, you don't make a movie for a shonen if it's not going to keep going.
And it was
Apparently do.
immensely successful. Like, this has been a very successful series, from what I understand.
Very strange. Tell us what
Yeah.
you think about it in the comments. Is this okay?
Yeah.
Are they
Yeah,
allowed to
yeah.
do this?
No, they're not. I can answer
Do
that.
we need to
one.
call the authorities?
Yes.
The
Okay,
anime
now
authorities.
it's time for Demon Slayer Z.
Yeah, exactly. GT.
No
Please
GT.
No.
Demon Slayer
No.
GT.
No GT. All right. Let's talk about Spy Family. We're going to start with our non-spoiler thoughts and feelings about it. We're going to talk about the opening and the ending, and then we'll be giving a spoiler warning before we spoil anything about the plot. But there will be spoilers coming up, just so you know, but not yet. So we're going to start off with you, Jeremy. What did you think of Spy Family Part 2?
Oh, I thought it was great. It retained all of the same funny beats. It was really, really good timing with its jokes. I love the art. Anya's art. Whenever they would do like her funny expressions, they nail it every time. It's so good. And the story, the romance between the two of them, and I don't know, it's definitely a type of romance, right? It's good. It's interesting. They introduced some new characters that I really like. Well, one new character that I really, really like. But I don't want to get into any spoilers with that. But she's funny. And yeah, I thought it was it progressed the story a little bit as far as reaching the mission objective. And I was kind of wondering where they were going to go with that, right? Because when we left off from Core 1, we were just dealing with like, oh, she's got 1 star. Is this even the route that we're going to see success, is going with the stars route, or do we go the friendship route? And so seeing the mission actually make a little bit more progress was pretty cool, definable progress. So it's pretty good.
All right, Jason, your thoughts.
I thought it was impressive because this is a common complaint that we have throughout anime that we watch, is that they have multiple characters that I don't feel were left out or that I didn't get enough story or screen time about. I think a little bit more of Yor would have been nice, but she got a ton of screen time. Like, I didn't feel like, what's Yor doing? I haven't seen her in 3 episodes. They did a great job developing all of these characters and even side characters, making me not just care about them, but also making them live within this world that they're building. We've got, like Jeremy said, we've got a lot of the same beats from the first half. We are exploring more of this fake family, but it feels good to watch it. It's not just enjoyable to watch, but like you feel good for the characters as you're watching it. So I think it's very well written.
I think I said this in our part 1, but I was in love with Spy Family before we even started it. The concept alone hooked me so much. I was just like, this is going to be amazing. So I'm not objective.
A little biased, are we?
But it is living up to my expectations every time I watch it as well. It is very funny. But while it's a comedy anime at heart, it also does really good plot threads. A random funny story here will suddenly connect to a bigger plot line later or to a character's arc. That stuff is built in. There's details that's paid attention to. A toy that was just, oh, we got this toy in this random episode. Well, suddenly that toy is important in this episode, and you're like, oh, that's why that toy was important. So there is really good world building. That world is very dark, despite how funny everything that's going on. And while I am almost always the dub guy, you gotta go sub with Spy Family. And I started rewatching with my son who loves spies. I'm like, okay, I've seen it all. There's nothing too bad. We can watch it. But he wanted to watch it in dub, and the dub is good. But Anya in sub is just one of a kind. The way her voice changes from sweet and innocent to super startled and surprised to angry, the way she does voices for other characters. I also like Lloyd a little bit better. He in Japanese, he's a little bit more just a little impatient, whereas in English, he's more frustrated. That emotion is more bubbling to the surface as he's trying to figure out this parenting thing. So I would recommend the sub on this one, which almost never happens.
Yeah.
All right, what did you guys think of the opening and closing?
This is one of the few exceptions that I liked the ED better than the OP. The OP has the better visuals, absolutely, but the music was just so much better in the ED, in my opinion. But I loved them both. They were great.
Yeah, same thing here. There is like a certain part in the opening, like at the very beginning, it doesn't really catch you, but then it picks up. There's a certain beat that it hits right in the middle, and it just takes off. And from that point, the opening is really, really good. But yeah, but I agree. The ending is I found it to be consistently, like, I enjoyed it more. I don't remember the visuals that much for either. I think it was just lots of family stuff.
Yeah, so I'm completely opposite of you guys. I like the OP better, especially musically. There's lyrics in there about I can't wait to get home to you, and I'm running. No, I need to walk. Like he's having to slow down because he wants to get home so bad, and it's clearly showing. The OP is almost clearly from Lloyd's point of view, whereas the part one had been from Anya. We see things in a very cartoony world, and Anya's point of view. This is very much Lloyd, and especially whenever he sees his family, the colors get nice and soft. There's a warm glow to everything, and there'll be like him shooting a gun in a dark alley, and then it teleports to him like in a carnival shooting instead, and everything's softer and nicer looking. And those lyrics, which they put down in the subtitles, got me every time. Like that's a real feeling that you have when you're rushing to get home and trying not to speed, but man, I just want to get home to my family. That was so good. I really like the visuals of the ending too. The shots of them all in their own world, and then a door of light showing up to them, and it leads them all into the apartment together, meaning they went from the darkness of their past to this world of light together. Great. Both were great, but the opening song I put on my playlist.
Oh, that's too bad.
Souvenir.
I'm sorry you're wrong about your opinion.
By something of chicken. Bunch of chicken? I don't remember the name of the band, but
yeah, obviously it wasn't that impactful.
Something
monster.
About redhead. Ginger.
No, that's
Numbness
that's
of a ginger.
Blue Lock,
Yeah,
man. That was Blue Lock. All right.
You're never gonna let that go, are you?
Numbness like a ginger. I remember now.
Before we go on to spoilers, our next anime is going to be the Eminence in Shadow episodes 1 through 10. It's a 20 episode anime. We're going to be watching the first half, and then we'll do another podcast episode about the second half. This is in isekai, and as soon as I saw that, I stopped reading the description. So, Jason, what's it about?
Yeah, that's all I know about it, actually. So I've only seen a couple. It's almost like I'm not gonna say. I don't know.
So we're going into this one blind.
Yeah.
I looked at a screenshot from my anime list, and there was one male protagonist and like 15 female protagonists around him,
Yep.
and it said isekai, and I was like, this actually makes me want to watch soccer again. But we'll give it its fair shot, so that'll be next time. All right, now this is your spoiler warning. From here on out, spoilers for Spy Family Part 2, and I'm sure Part 1. We don't know anything about manga spoilers in the future, so there won't be any of that, but spoilers for the whole anime.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to assume you know who everyone is and what the world is. You've listened to either Part 1 or you've watched the series before, so if you don't know anything about Spy Family, there's another podcast episode you need to go watch. It's been a while. I don't remember what episode it is.
It's called a search bar. They can
scroll through our channel. It'll be there. It's on the website, right, Jeremy?
On the website.
Yeah. On the website.
Yeah. I'm looking it up right now.
We're professionals.
See how functional our website is, everyone? The anime box. theanimebakaclub.com. Don't interrupt the plug.
Well, the website's professional. That doesn't mean we are.
Namaste. All right. So we ended last season, despite a filler episode about getting a stuffed penguin. The Forger
Spoiler
family.
warning. This is your spoiler warning.
We gave the spoiler warning.
He already
You didn't actually say this is spoiler warning.
I did. He said
he
we're in
didn't.
spoiler territory now.
Okay, spoiler warning. It's
I guess,
officially been said. No one can complain from here on out.
Very professional.
The Forger family is going to get a dog, partially because Anya got a gold star, and this is her reward to keep her happy. But Lloyd's like, hey, an attack dog might be good to add to the team. At the same time, we're shown a bunch of dogs in cages being loaded onto a truck, and we're going to find out these are dogs that are going to be used by terrorists to plan an assassination. So we're going to go through the family now. We're going to start off with Lloyd Forger, a.k.a. Twilight, a.k.a. no one knows his real name, but he used to be a crybaby child back in the past. I don't think that's what it was trying to tell us, but whatever. So your guys' thoughts on we're going to call him Lloyd. It is not his real name. That should be known, but in the series, he goes by Lloyd because that's his secret or his fake identity. So your guys' thoughts on Lloyd?
I think he is one of my favorite protagonists of 2023. He plays the spy part perfectly for like any spy show or movie that you might have seen, but then he's also doing this pretend dad, which is spot on. And trying to balance the two and also investigate the people around him is very enjoyable to watch. And then also watching him attempt to fix situations to go in his favor and the antics that ensue are just a joy to watch. So his personality shines through in all of these different scenarios, and he's just a great guy at heart, even though he can be a cold-blooded killer if need be. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this character.
Yeah, we get to see him on another mission, which is pretty cool. And then we also get to see him on another mission, which is even better at the end. But yeah, I don't really have too much more to add. I just kind of echo everything Jason said. He was entertaining while he was on there.
Well, I love the next two characters we're going to talk about. Lloyd is why I'm here. It is what I got excited about the show. Hey, I'm a spy. I have no attachments. I'm only about the mission. I'm Ethan Hunt. I'm James Bond. I'm whatever I need to be to win. And now I have this daughter in my life and this wife in my life, and I don't know how to deal with that. And watching him very slowly, it's a very slow burn, and maybe even a little too slow. But they're doing this. He's coming to value them, and they're dropping the subtle hints. He, if you listen to internal monologue, isn't aware of it. He's like, for the mission, I need to get this little girl a dog. But it's also because, well, he wants to make his daughter happy. And we get to see that. And then there's little hints like, hey, his smile is no longer a fully fake smile. There's real emotion behind there, which he's never done before in his life. I love that trope. They're doing it amazingly. So Lloyd is my favorite character of the series. Like I said, he's what I'm here for. Next up, we have his telepathic daughter, Experiment 007, Anya Forger. Your guys' thoughts on Anya?
One of probably the cutest protagonists of 2023. I'm just saying, I'm calling that right now. Her ability to warm your heart in just about every scene she is in is amazing. And we'll get into some more specifics later, but there's lots of situations where she just doesn't have the experience or the knowledge because she's 6 or 7. So
now, hold on. she claims to be 6 or 7. She's actually
Right.
younger because Lloyd needed a 6-year-old and she lied after hearing his thoughts.
Which is why they all think she has stubby legs.
Her relationship with the dog is fantastic. Her handwriting is terrible. Her test scores are worse, and she's all the cuter for it. This character makes this show. Like, Lloyd's fantastic, but Lloyd is not as fantastic without Anya. So
Yeah, this anime does a really good job with presenting believable characters for the type of characters they're presenting, right? Like, Lloyd is interesting because he's believable. Anya is the same way, and just children in general in this anime are portrayed in a very convincing way. Like there's scenes where they have like childish, silly crushes on the adults, or they don't know what they're saying, but they're saying something, and it's embarrassing and it's silly, or even when she uses bad words right away in like the first episode, and you know that Lloyd is like, watch your language, little girl. And it's just, there's these moments that are very believable and really, really cute. It makes it more endearing. Like you said, Jason's very heartwarming for that. I also just, Anya, for me, in the first core, she stole the scene anytime she was on it. Like, she was just hysterical. She always had something funny going on. In this one, she was a little bit more contemplative, a little bit more sedate, I would say, which wasn't a bad thing. You know, even though it hasn't been a lot of time, it's been a very, very little time. It is interesting to see the character development over the span of episodes, and like her relationship with Becky, and how she behaves with Becky versus when she's around Damien, because we saw more of her with Damien in the first core, and so it's interesting to see other sides of her where she's, you know, not just ornery and silly, but also, you know, just a good friend.
She's the funniest part of the show still. Not only the voice actresses are doing a great job with the way she goes from that cute voice to the shocked voice. Her facial expressions. Oh, we didn't mention in the ED. There's always the shot of her stealing from the cake while they're serving everything to the table, and her eyes are big and watery, and it made me laugh every time. 12 times in a row. I laughed at her. So they have this perfect recipe to like get a laugh whenever they want. They use it well. What I really like that they do with Anya is, in a lot of anime, I feel like they're like, hey, I'll train my kid for this, and then the kid will go and do the thing, and hey, they perfected it. They won the race. They got the 100%. Anya puts in a lot of work and like still fails or barely passes, and I'm like, yeah, that's real parenting. Like, my kid's not great at baseball. I took him out. I was like, throw. Oh, you're throwing great. Goes out into practice, throws it straight into the dirt. And I'm like, yep, that's real life. And that whoever writes for Anya understands that about kids. Now, they also had a little bit of excuse that, she's younger than everyone else around her, so she always seems a little extra inept. But it's still a very realistic portrayal of, I worked put all this effort into my kid, and it got minimal results. Even though in the long term, it actually helps more than you realize. But it's still very effective storytelling. So they did a great job with Anya. And then we have Jason. What did she win for 2023?
I'm not sure she has a 2023 title this year, but I'm still under the impression that she is a superhero, or at least has superpowers.
She is waifu of 2023.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
That's what I wanted.
I know that's what you wanted. I just don't know if she's that. But
she'll kill anyone that gets in her way, though.
That's 100%. I super soldier serum something. There's just no other explanation within the writing of this world. But she's just, I think she was better in the first half. I'll put it that way. In this half, she's very good. I really enjoyed all of her scenes. but she takes more of she's definitely always behind that curve of I'm trying to live up to this ideal of what a wife should be in my head. And then she stresses herself out without any real confirmation to stress herself out from Lloyd about like he's gonna leave me because I'm not cooking well enough or something like that. And that's an that was interesting to explore because obviously it's a fake family, but I thought it stretched out a bit too long. And she made some real wins throughout the show, and I don't think she gave herself enough credit by the end. But besides that, she, like her, I love the scene where she's got to uh, Anya asks her to, what's your job, Mom? Which we'll get to later, but that was great.
I think one of my favorite scenes with Yor, because there's two absolute favorite scenes with Yor. Okay, maybe three. But one of those scenes is after she essentially proves herself superior, but she does it in like a very nonchalant sort of doesn't appear to be aware of what she's doing when she does it, right? Because she feels threatened. Somebody's jealous of her position, wants her position as the fake wife. And so after a bunch of other things happen, she winds up essentially competing with this person, but she's still doing like the Yor, oh, I don't know what's going on. I'm just a sweet, innocent Yor, as she competes and actually just absolutely obliterates this competitor, right? And then afterwards, what I loved was that she comes up to Lloyd and she says, I won. And he says, what? And she says, I won. And I was like, oh, oh, she knows exactly what she was doing. Okay. So there's like this undercurrent, like you're saying, Jason, where she is very uncertain whether or not she's going to stay in this role because she's afraid she's going to be kicked out of it. And I do like the fact that even though, just like Lloyd hasn't necessarily come to a full realization of how much he's invested in this family now, how much he wants to be a part of it, she's starting to do the same thing where she's like, oh, I'm actually genuinely worried about this now because it's not just, oh, I won't get to kill anybody anymore. She really wants to be with these people. And so she's afraid of losing that. And that's a kind of cool. I don't know if it's too fast or too slow to see that explored with her. It might just be just right. I like that part.
One thing I did notice now that you're mentioning some of this is in the first half, it was very distinct and it was kind of this overcurrent that was happening throughout the anime of this Cold War that's happening between the East and West and how there's this tension in the background always. And that's one of the big reasons, that Yor starts down this path is because she doesn't want to get found out by the secret police. But that's lost a lot in this side. And I think they have to keep explicitly reminding us of the tenuous piece between East and West because it's not felt as an overcurrent like it was in the first half. I'm just noticing that. I don't think that's something to like dock this anime for, but it's interesting that it felt much more, this side felt much more happy-go-lucky until like the last couple episodes.
Yeah, like first couple and last couple. Like in that entire middle, I'd agree with you.
Yeah.
Building off what Jeremy said, I disagree with what Jason said about Yor.
Oh.
Because
she's a superhero.
No, not that. Actually, when you said that, I was like, actually, a superhuman serum is entirely feasible in this world. We see two characters take serums, and I'm like, oh yeah, she could actually have a reason for superpowers instead of just stylized. Because Lloyd is going through such a slow burn, and like I said, maybe even too slow. I'm glad they're going faster with Yor. Yor is very much starting to realize and admitting to herself, this is now more than just convenience. This is something I want. And that's where this new doubt and fear of losing it is, even though there's not, Lloyd hasn't done anything to say, I'm going to kick you out. She suddenly has something she wants to keep, which she's never had before. She was living alone, raised her little brother, and then has been on her own, very naive to the world, almost barely knows anything the way we see her interact with stuff. So suddenly she has something she cares about for like the first time in the longest time. And that's where I think these unrealistic fears are, if my breakfast isn't good enough, or if I now suddenly there's a woman at the door, and there's no reason to be jealous, right? Because we're not in a relationship, but I am jealous. I love what they're doing with you, and I love that it's not just an episode that deals with it. It's we see it slowly starting to affect her. We see it with the cooking episode, that she's having these thoughts, and then we see that once Fiona shows up, that it really starts adding it on. And then even after Fiona, we just see her sitting on the couch holding a pillow, lost in thought. And it doesn't tell us what the thought is, but we know because we've been watching. It's eating away at her until it comes to the boils over at the bar, and they actually have to confront the topic and kind of reset the relationship back to a place where they're both comfortable. I really like that, and I think that's a good formula going forward, is making sure that these characters keep progressing. We keep seeing little arcs for them to go through to keep that relationship moving forward, because if it just stays still, it will get old quickly, and I'm already worried about like how long it's going to take. So anything that's pushing them forward, I'm for. With your boom.
Have it your way.
Just to be clear, I was happy with the arc that she went through. I would have liked to see her be not so down in the dumps after getting some wins. Like after that cooking episode, like she blew them away with her success, and that was very short lived for her. And I thought she deserved.
She did
more.
almost kill them in the same episode with her dessert.
That's true.
I guess that's true. That's true.
And then when Fiona shows up, she literally has burnt eggs sitting there, and so it's like staring her in the face. I don't know. I can see her being a little extra hard on herself, but I think this kind of builds into her naive personality that she just doesn't have the world experience to feel confident in herself. I mean, besides Yuri, no one's ever been nice to her ever, and
Yuri's just creepy, so I think she knows it.
So good, blah. I want more blah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, back to the story then. The Forger family, who we've just discussed, they go to get a dog, and they go to a pet store, which is actually a front for the spy agency where they have trained killer dogs. Guys, episodes have been on for 2 minutes, and we see Lloyd talking to the pet shop owner about the dogs, and the dogs are flexing like humans for
Yes.
Anya, trying to get her to pick up, doing bicep curls. So stupid, and I laugh so hard.
Yep.
And then he's Anya's yeah, no, this ain't it, fam. So the pet shop guy is oh, I guess there's a real adoption center or event happening that you guys could go to. But then Lloyd gets the signal that there's a mission for him. So he's oh, my stomach, I'm going to have to go. And yours oh, well, maybe we'll wait for you. So Anya then says, when Papa has to beep, Papa takes long beeps. She doesn't say that in English. I went and checked. She only
Really?
says that in the subtitles. It's crap in dub, where they use the actual bad word. Again, so first it's the dogs. Now I got Anya cursing at me, and I'm after 2 seasons of soccer, I was just I felt like I was home. I was I'm so happy to be watching this show again. It's gonna be one of the ones I list in the future when I'm anime I would like Spy Family. Not that you know my future rating. All right.
Spoiler alert.
So he goes off, and he by impersonating a terrorist leader, he gets one of the terrorists to admit that they're strapping the bombs to dogs. Meanwhile, Anya is off at the adoption center, and Yor gets distracted, and Anya sees a dog outside. This is going to be the dog. His name will be Bond. she sees his mind and he sees her family in his mind. So she sneaks out and follows the dog into the terrorist building, gets caught. The dog sees her. Meanwhile, Yor is Spider-Manning around the building looking for her lost daughter.
I love that people in there are actually like seeing her do this and they're freaking out. They're like, what the heck was that? When she like drops down from the beams, there's like a guy in front of her that turns and looks and he like tries to move away. It was really good.
Anya, the dog goes to save Anya. He gets free, and then they get a phone call about their assassination attempt. They're here to kill a diplomat from the other country, but either way, they're just trying to start the war. But they're from the other country. They're from Westalis, right?
No, because
No.
in the next episode, they talk about how it's too bad I'm going to have to kill some of my own countrymen, but they're dying for a good cause.
Okay. Anya and the dog go running. She rides the dog out there, go running on the streets. They tear away, but the dog gets lost. Any thoughts on the dog? I didn't really list him as a character. I was a little confused, because he does the save thing, and then someone yells at him, and he hides behind Anya, and then he has this miraculous escape, and then instantly gets lost. And I'm like, I can't tell if you're competent or an idiot.
Yeah.
I think the dog's interesting because we come to find out later that he's been experimented on.
Right.
And so I think what's happened is he's in this weird in-between state of like human sentience, but he's still a dog. And because he's in between this place, he's not good at either.
That's a fair one.
And it makes him funny, but not particularly useful.
Yeah.
In fact, we get a really good scene of it, like quite a few episodes later, where he gets jealous and he has no idea what to do with those feelings. So I think he's more of a hilarious plot point or like plot driver. But I thought he fit well as far as like just a way to drive plots forward or tell a particular story. Mainly because Anya can read his mind,
Right.
and she pictures it as him seeing the future, which seems to be
No, he
kind
sees
of
the future.
case. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
Which-
because he saved that kid.
I think
right.
my theory is that the experiments that made him eventually led to making Anya, that they're part of the same experimental group.
At least the same scientists were experimenting on
Right.
both, I think.
That could be true. He's definitely old enough that he could be older than her. So yeah, I could see that. The only other contribution I have for him is that this is not what I thought the dog was going to be. I got the impression when we were in the last episode of the first core and they were talking about a dog, and like I remember there was a scene where they gave a glimpse of some kind of white dog, and I don't remember if it was him or not, or if it was a smaller dog, but I just got this impression that the dog was going to be a very important part of the family that would like have as much weight as the other characters, primarily because we're dealing with a telepath, and if the dog has powers, which I figured it might have some kind of powers, then the telepath is probably going to engage with it and use it more frequently. So I was a little bit disappointed that he kind of drifted into the back of most scenes. There were only like 2 or 3 scenes that he was actually important or interesting in to me. So yeah, maybe that's just a future thing. Maybe as she develops her powers, as time goes by and she gets older, maybe she's going to use him more, interact with him more. But yeah, I was hoping for more out of him.
I think he's perfect as like a plot starter. He's almost like a great writing prompt. Dog sees picture, Anya sees picture, has no idea of the context, adventure ensues. And they don't. I thought that was going to be like every arc now from now on, and they only used it a few times. And but yeah, now that they have that in their pocket, so now you can just have Lloyd get a mission. You can have Bond see a vision. You can have something happen in school for Anya. I just need some of Yor to get some more phone calls and to have that affect the family. That for me is probably my biggest complaint, that Yor's not doing. We're not seeing Yor's world very much besides in her own mind.
Yeah.
I actually was getting a little excited because later on, like, she's like sneaking out. She's got cuts all over her hands. We're like, oh, is she doing more? And then find out it's so much more innocent, which is hilarious. But I was hoping for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Anya the dog right off, Yor actually sees them, which is great because as soon as you see Yor see them, you're like, oh, I know what's about to happen, right? So the terrorists chase them, they corner them. Yor shows up, and you're like, yeah, here it comes. And it was exactly what you're expecting, but it was also perfect. They send an attack dog after her, and she growls at him so bad the dog runs off, but also terrifies Anya at the same time. And then she kicks the guy, and he bounces off the wall like 7 times.
Yeah, terrorist pinball.
How he didn't die, we don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Yeah.
then the terrorist leader gets away. Anya tells Yor, those were terrorists. So she calls the police, and she's like, "No, I'm just a housewife. I found
That's such a
the
great
terrorist."
Yeah,
gag. I love that gag of her like, no, I know it was me again, but it's fine. And no, I'm not here. Bye.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Bond has a vision of Lloyd dying. So, and Anya sees it because of the telepath. So she jumps on, and we have to ride to. She sees this giant clock tower exploding, right? So they ride off to the square where the clock tower is, and there's this great gag. Again, I was laughing my butt off because she gets up. She's like, "There's the clock tower. It'll be. I don't know how to read time." Mister, how much longer till the hand does the thingy? And he's like, well, that's 30 minutes. Okay. I don't know what 30 minutes is. Yeah, she's copying her spy cartoon. And it's just perfectly set up. There's what's obvious for most people. Little kids don't have the context yet. Yeah, they get the clock tells time, but until someone teaches them what it does, it's completely random. It doesn't matter. But the terrorist shows up to the square, and so her and Bond hide, and they follow him to this room, and he's laying a trap for Lloyd and Lloyd's group, because Lloyd's group is arresting these terrorists. And the terrorist puts a bomb on the door, so Anya sneaks in through a little flap in the wall.
It cracked me up that she knew that, oh, the door is going to make it explode, and so she still goes to open the door.
Almost opened it, and the dog's like, no.
Borf.
I don't know what that vent thing was. It didn't look like it was for mail or anything, but there's like a little vent in the hallway to go into the side, and it's just big enough for her to fit through.
Yeah. But she realizes she can't dispose of the bomb, so she uses ketchup to write a warning on the door: "Don't open door."
Well, she starts to imagine in her head the spy show, and she's like, "Oh, I need some clippers so I can get the wire, and it's always the red wire, and all the wires are black." And she's like, I don't know which wire to cut.
Which is really good because it probably wouldn't have been the right wire.
Lloyd's group shows up, and they are about to go in, but Lloyd's like, no, that ketchup on the door is giving me a bad feeling. He checks the little vent, sees the bomb, and so they leave when the Secret Service for the country show up. So they don't blow up, and then Bond shows that the future changed. He now sees the happy Forger family future again.
Was that ketchup readable, or was that just for us as the audience?
It was a big N-O. Yeah.
So maybe those are just the only letters that she writes competently, because later she writes and nobody can read it.
Well, you also have to remember, I mean, these are giant letters she wrote.
Yeah.
They were on a piece of paper.
That's true. That could be the factor.
Meanwhile, this terrorist goes after the minister that he's targeting, but that minister gets a visitor, and then the minister suddenly gets in a car and drives off by himself and drives away. Okay, it's Lloyd, and I like that they start to set it up, but they don't take too long. They always show, this is Lloyd. You've figured it out by now.
Yep.
So he's chasing after this minister, and he gets away from the other spies, and then he sees like the minister like doing parkour away from him, and he's like, "How old was that guy?" But he sends one of the bomb dogs after him, and the episode ends with Lloyd facing this dog, and he tears off his mask, and he's pulling up his gun, and you're like, "Oh, Lloyd's gonna have to shoot the dog." But Lloyd is Batman. He plans for everything, and he has dog-proof sleeve, and then he grabs the bomb he shoots the vest, throws the dog in a dumpster, throws the bomb in the river, saves everyone. Everyone's happy.
I was 100% thought he was going to shoot the dog.
Yeah, me too. The dog. Part of me for a little while was a little bit confused why he didn't, because we've seen him kill people before. Like he has put down terrorists by
the only hand waving reason I can think is a dog and a bomb is probably going to be anywhere from 105 to 120 pounds. And being able to toss it all the way into the river would have been a very hard thing to do. But if he has just the jacket, which is probably 15, maybe 20 pounds, chucking that into the river would be no problem.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good explanation.
I'd like to think that it's showing that Lloyd is softer than he used to be. But we haven't seen any sign of him shooting dogs in the past, so I can't say that for
sure. The only thing that I was thinking was that maybe it's because the dog is sort of an innocent party. But if the dog was indoctrinated to behave
or
this
it's
way,
experimented on dog and they want to use it for their purposes.
Yeah. Right. Well, but I mean that would mean that the dog is an unwilling party, and maybe he's less inclined to kill an unwilling party, but we don't know. Like if the dog was indoctrinated and became a willing party under misconception, then that really doesn't make him too different from a terrorist in the first place. So, I don't know. Lots of interesting ideas.
The terrorist gets away, but while he's driving, a nice housewife spots him driving in the road, and he's driving right at her. I'm like, they're not going to have her stop a car. And she doesn't. Kind of. She jumps to the side and kicks it into a wall so that he crashes. And then the housewife calls the police again. This is the same housewife from before. I have another terrorist for you. I gotta go by.
How do you keep catching terrorists?
It wasn't me. I was just passing by.
The whole family meets up again at the pet store. Lloyd pretending to have been in the toilet this whole time. It's like it's nighttime. Like the sun is setting. It's been all day. They tell him like, "Oh yeah, Anya disappeared twice. There was terrorists. I arrested 2 terrorists." He's like, "Oh, wow, all that happened." The dogs are all brought into the spy agency so that they can take care of them, and they go to take the dog that Anya's with, and she's like, "No, this is the dog I want." And he's like, "No, you wanted a little puppy." She's like, "No, I changed my mind. I want this big older dog." And then his handler comes out pretending to be the police and saying like, "Oh, well, you can't have this terrorist dog." And then she's like, "Well, maybe you could." And she agrees to let them keep the dog. And even though Lloyd's like talking in coded message, like, "Are you sure we can keep this dog?" She's like, "Yeah, just keep a watch on it."
At first,
yeah,
he's like, "No, we can't have this dog."
So Anya gets to keep her dog. But this is also we haven't had much interaction with Sylvia at all, the redheaded handler. But we get some interesting info here. She mentions that she once had a daughter, which is why I say like this world is dark, even though the comedy is light, and it does this weird mix. Because it very much hints that something has happened to that daughter. We know Yor's parents are dead. We know Anya's been through experimentation. Lloyd had a devastating past. So there's all this darkness going around. But I did want to ask what you guys thought of Sylvia, because she gets a lot more screen time in this half.
I just love every scene she's in. I'm glad that she's not a main character like Lloyd and Yor is, but her contribution to the story is fantastic. And I love that she's not the top of the spy agency. She's got people she has to answer to, but the authority that she does have, it is neat to watch in action, and like her having to justify certain calls that she makes. And also that when she gets a gift, she decides to wear it for the rest of the anime.
Yeah.
That was a great touch.
I was like a bit intimidated and concerned when she was putting the silencer on her pistol while talking to the terrorist children
Right?
about
Talk
what they
about
haven't
reminding us
experienced.
of a dark world.
Yeah. And I'm still not clear on whether she used it, right? Because I would assume that she probably didn't.
They did not complete that
But
scene.
yeah, we never got to find out what happened there.
Her speech during that too, like all the things she suffered through. Have you ever had this happen to you? Have you ever had this happen to you? And like, oh yeah, this world's horrible. It's just very funny most of the time.
Right,
Yep.
because these seemed like 20-year-olds, like kids.
Yeah.
It seemed very much like they were activists trying to, do their part for the world. And she's like, you have no idea what this world's really like. And let me show you what it's like. It's like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the repercussions for your actions you're not going to want. They're not good.
Yeah, I really liked her. The only thing I'll add is I'm glad that she's not a love interest for anyone, that she's just this great supporting character that we get to have, very similar to Frankie, who I don't have listed to talk about because he didn't really change much from part one, but good background or supporting cast, I should say. Okay, so they have to wait a day for the dog. The dog is brought over. And now he's part of the home. And then Anya goes back to school. And she finds out she's not going to get a star for being a hero because this one needs to be kept under wraps, that she was involved with terrorist activity. So she's like, I want another star. She's like, well, I guess I'll have to go back to Project Friendship. But now that I have a dog, and get Damien to care about my dog. So she goes up to Damien. She's like, I got a dog. And he's like, well.
Before, in her own mind, she's like, I'll show my dog. Oh, your dog's so cool. Can I come over to your house and we'll save the world?
Want to compare our dogs?
Yep. So she goes out to him. She's like, yeah, I got a dog. And he's like, oh, yeah? Well, what's its name? And she doesn't
Dog.
Dog. World peace denied. Plan failed.
Right.
This is a good time to talk about Damien, though. So again, he's kind of the target of the mission because we're trying to get to his father, who's the most likely to start up a war between the two countries again. So Lloyd's whole mission, get close to this father. They have to do it through his son, through this prestigious school that has parties for the highest ranked people and in their country. Thoughts on Damien?
Not much different than the first half. I did like the character building they did. He did have a decent arc as well. Him finally being able to not just ask for his father's time, but also present his father with information he probably wouldn't have in the past. That was a neat character growth for him. But I did hit the antics Anya keeps getting him into are great to watch. My favorite is the paper mache animals.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Yep. I thought he really kind of blossomed. The way that he was presented, it showed so much more compassion than I got the impression he had before. Like, I knew that there was something in the first core, something more under the surface. Like, he seemed like he might be a nicer guy. But man, did they give evidence in this one. They even gave evidence with a character that didn't have anything to do with the Forgers, like just a one-off character. This other boy at the school. And I mean, he really had no reason to go out of his way to help this kid or to make this kid feel better about the bad situation that he was supposedly in. But he did anyways, even to the point of being the second person when the kid makes the silliest request of can everybody please sing this song? Damien's the second person to get in there and start boogieing, and it was really interesting to see that this is not the character that I thought he was. Not this nice. I knew he'd be a nice kid, but I didn't think he'd be this nice. And I also thought it was funny how at the end in the last episode where he's talking to Lloyd and he's like, well, I want to be friends with her, and then he's all blushing. And it's funny because there's such an innocence to it where there is nothing but like friendship. But it's like, oh, it's a girl, so I guess that makes her my girlfriend, even though he doesn't know what that is. Like it's adorable. It's super cute. And so yeah, I really enjoyed the way that they played this character. He was still trying to be like the tough kid, and he's battling with that side of his personality, but he's also very soft. I thought it was pretty good and complex.
I do love that Anya still calls him second son and not Damien.
Yeah.
I love what they did with Damien in this half, because in that first half we have he's the spoiled bully kid trope you always see, but then they add but he's got kind of a crush on Anya, so that adds a little bit of twist to it. And then, like you said, they're revealing that he's actually much softer, much nicer than he plays off. But then they're also showing us his relationship with his father a lot closer, showing us why he puts up that cold front. That's what he gets at home, and he thinks that's what he needs to be. But that is not who he really is. He's actually this good guy. And then, but it was really the two scenes where he's making phone calls. I just remember thinking, like, that's such good writing. There's such quick scenes, but it's like, hey, you want to know this character's villain origin story? Here it is. Yeah, they did a great job with him. I thought of him as like a story point to get through in the first half, and now I'm excited to see what happens to his character for the rest of the story. I'm invested in Damien's arcs.
I'd agree with that. I did like that this happened to multiple kids and not just Damien, that they end up having what seems like a closer relationship with the help or the waiters or the servants than they do with their own parents. And that is a plague that might, that seems to be happening at this school.
Mm-hmm. It would make sense that the wealthy children are spending more time with the butlers and the waiters. Mm-hmm.
So when Anya gets home, they take the dog to the park to play, and she's going around trying to figure out every other dog's name. So she needs a dog's name for hers, but she loses her gloves, and the dog goes and another dog had stolen them. The dog goes up. He's like, not on my watch, man.
My precious, these are my precious.
So he gets the gloves back for Anya, and she's like, oh, he's like Bond Man. I'm going to name him Bond. And so that becomes his name. And he gets a bow tie, so he's just like James Bond, right?
That's all it takes.
And then she plays with him for the rest of the night and falls asleep on him. Very cute ending of the episode. Okay, then we get the episode with Yor has been coming home late recently, and Lloyd is suspicious, and she's got all these cuts on her hands, and we're like, finally some assassin storyline, and that is not what's happening.
She never cuts herself being an assassin.
Yeah, that's right. Yor is taking cooking classes from her horrible coworker, the one who tried to spill the shrimp on her in part 1. Who her boyfriend is like, oh, you're not so bad. She tried to throw hot boiling shrimp on her. She's pretty bad. She tried to assault her. Anyway, she's taking cooking classes, and whenever she has to chop something, and she chops the entire cutting board into pieces because she's so strong. Everything she makes is terrible. But so they invite Yuri over to do taste testing, and this is
they don't want to taste the food anymore.
This is Yor's little brother, who we all had pretty strong thoughts about in part 1. Any difference in part 2?
It was a lot less creepy this time around as far as the brother-sister thing. I think I was a little disappointed that they didn't play more into I'm really secret police and I should be like investigating people. Because that was a real threat in the first half that we didn't. That seems to be relaxed a bit. But I think his time with Anya is much more enjoyable than he is here. And actually, that's one thing that I'm finding as the anime keeps going on. Like, character after character after character, as we go on, gets softer and softer. Lloyd gets softer. Yours just getting softer. Yuri's getting softer. Her coworker gets softer. Damien gets softer. Just everyone that is in Anya's orbit seems to be becoming a better person, and I find that an interesting theme throughout the show.
I wonder if she has like a telepathic aura that's like helping all of them. Other than
maybe
just
just
being a
little
cute
kids
little
do
kid.
that.
Right.
Yeah, or being a parent really does that to
Yeah.
you.
No, I got way worse.
No, I thought I loved the flashback to when he was a kid and he was trying yours cooking and he was like, "Oh, I love it, sis. This is great. This is the best ever." And he just keeps eating and keeps barfing. Fantastic. Absolutely love that. And they use the joke really well throughout.
It's a
Yeah.
great running joke, and also that he's like immune to poison now, and he's basically invincible because you can't poison him, and he's so used to being smashed around by which he'd get embarrassed that nothing can hurt him. He can get hit by a truck, and he's like, "That's nothing compared to my sister slapping me."
I think my favorite thing about the Your cooking arc here is that dish after dish has to be censored because of how bad it is.
Yeah, like a giant cockroach.
Yes. That is really good.
Yes. So Yuri's the taste tester. He loves everything, even though he's constantly throwing up. But they, I forget it. Camilla. Camilla says, "Hey, what did something your mom used to make?" And Yor actually remembers a stew that she used to make, and she tries making that. They're like, "Oh, it's really good, and it's close." And then Camilla's like, "Well, I think people from your region used add sour cream." And she has just a jar of sour cream, and she adds a little bit, so it's perfect. And they have her mom's recipe brought back. So she goes home, and she tells her husband and her daughter she's cooking for the night, and then they freak out. But she admits everything that she's been doing. That she's been going to cooking classes, and she makes the dinner for them. And even though the eggs still come out weird, the rest of it is perfect, and they actually really like it. And she starts to cry. And she's like, "Well, why am I crying? I thought this was just, again, a convenient marriage, a convenient situation. And I'm really happy that they like that I'm able to provide for them." And then she makes them a dessert, and they are on the ground, writhing in pain.
And then it becomes more believable that he would be knocked out all day long because of something she cooked for breakfast.
All right, and then there's a second part to this episode, which is about Frankie wanting dating advice from Lloyd for a girl at a cigar shop that he likes. He's like, "I don't even smoke cigars, but I like her so much. I smoke like 3 a day." Lloyd helps him. He's trying to like walk him through like all these dialogue trees, but eventually, just like in costume, helps him practice. Frankie goes and tries to talk to her, and he gets rejected. And while the foragers are out on their family outing, they see Frankie, and they come up, and he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do it later. She's busy." But then Anya like reads his mind and starts crying instantly because the rejection was so bad. Frankie goes and gets drunk at the bar, and then Lloyd shows up and buys him a drink. And Frankie's not part of the family technically, but I don't think this is something Lloyd, the agent, does. I think this is something Lloyd, the new father, does. And he'll tell himself, "No, this is so my contact stays happy. I'm just trying to keep a good relationship." But this is Lloyd being a good human being for one of the first times in his life. In my opinion, it never specifically says. It's just that's my impression from this. And that's one of the things I love about how they're developing Lloyd is just these little moments like this. The story was very silly, it was very funny, but then let me just buy you a drink. You're gonna buy me multiple drinks.
Yep.
All right. Anya's still trying to get Damien's attention with a family picture with the dog in it, because she's still gonna use that dog. She's gonna make that work. But Becky sees the picture. Becky is Anya's best friend, and she falls in love with Lloyd. Your dad is so hot. But in this episode, this is where they have art class being taught by Henry Henderson. So what does he always say?
Elegant.
Elegant.
Oh,
Rick,
yes.
you got to be elegant. Like, so their art project is they have to share like a paper source for each table, and they make their own animals, while Becky makes Lloyd, but then she doesn't want anyone else to see him, so she throws it away and makes something else.
Oh, it's even worse. Like, she smashes him with her fist. Like, you don't see that coming.
And even Henderson comes up, he's like, you need to make an animal, you can't make a person. People are humans.
Yeah,
Or,
people are animals.
people are animals. You can't stop me. But the real story is that Damien is trying to make his family crest a griffin, and Anya makes her dog in like 5 seconds. It looks like just crumpled paper with legs.
So bad.
So bad.
It's got like some thread taped onto the end of it for tail.
So Anya's like, "I'll help you." He's like, "No, you need to do yours." And she's like, "I'm done," and points at the crumpled paper.
Don't want your help. Nope.
So he's like, "Fine, you can do the leg." So she makes jet engine legs. He's like, "I don't want jet engine legs." He's like, "No, now he can fly faster." And then he's like, "No, make the wings." She messes those up. Well, now he can't fly. He's got the jet engine legs. He doesn't need the wings. She ends up sacrificing her dog so that he has enough. She makes it a female griffin so that they can make a baby. Yeah.
So it would be a couple, yeah.
His griffin wins first place because they think it's abstract art.
Yes. And then instead of it being like a female griffin, they think that it's a dead baby griffin, showing that
Right.
the nation it's recovering and it's trying to come back from this terrible conflict.
So he gets a star for that. And he calls his father at home, who's not home and doesn't care. Then we just get a little side story about Sylvia. She's known as the Full Metal Lady. We see her like avoiding surveillance and him meeting up with Lloyd for updates where he's like, "My daughter can now jump rope 4 times." And that's a dad thing to do.
All the other staff are like, "Man, she's so ruthless and cutthroat. She'll do anything to get ahead." Like, they all think she's this super career woman.
Nope.
Oh, that's Fiona.
Oh,
we're
not talking about
this
Fiona.
this is a little Sylvia story where she went to the pool and changed into a costume and then snuck right back out.
Oh, that's right. Because okay, yeah, you're right. I am mixing it up. Yeah, because they're following her because they have suspicions, but they're not sure who she is.
It's not really plot relevant. The part that I liked about it was Lloyd's update of "My daughter can jump rope 4 times," and she's like, "This doesn't matter." But to a dad who's been watching his kid try to jump rope and get from 3 to 4, and you're like, "It's up to 4." Like it. Yeah, it's stupid, but for some reason it matters to you, and you're seeing the growth, and you have to talk about it. Everyone else is like, "That seems like a normal thing for a normal person to do." I felt this one. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, then we come to the midterm story arc. So midterms are coming for these little 3rd, 4th graders. 2nd, 1st.
I think they're first.
Yeah, 1st grade.
Yeah,
hopefully.
1st grade.
Midterms for 1st grade. And Anya's like, "Well, that's fine. I'll just cheat off of Damien." But then she learns it's going to be a new moon. And we learn that Anya loses her powers when the moon is eclipsing, or whenever it's a new moon. So she's like, "Okay, I got to study." And Yor invites Yuri, who's very academically smart, to help her study. A lot happens here. First, Yuri hates her because she gets a lot of attention from Yor, and he's jealous of everything. But Anya plays on that and is like, "Yor would make me so happy if I did this, and she's the best." And he's like, "Oh, she loves Yor so much, I need to take care of her." But at the end, while they're both panting on the ground from studying so long, he's like, "Now, do you feel you understand your grammar lesson?" And she goes, "What's grammar?"
And he's like, "I'm leaving. This is dumb."
That's a great joke. Yeah, he stomps out after eating the snacks that Yor made and throwing them up. He marches out, and Lloyd comes and looks at the table. Is like, none of these are the subjects she's going to be tested on.
Yeah.
Didn't even
Foreign
study.
languages.
But Anya becomes committed to studying, and she goes into her room and studies, and then she takes the midterm.
She
And
still
then-
looks horrible.
Oh, no, wait. Lloyd has a mission. He's got to sneak into the school and fix Anya's
Right.
test.
That's
And when
right.
he's sneaking in, he notices another spy sneaking in. This guy, he only gets this one episode. His name is Daybreak, and he considers himself the rival of Twilight, right? So, but he's like rolling and jumping everywhere, and somehow it's working, and he's terrible, and he keeps getting caught, and Lloyd has to keep, who's dressed up as a staff member, keeps having to save him. And then he knocks Lloyd out, and Lloyd pretends to be knocked out. And then when the guy's leaving, Lloyd gets up, and the guy's like, he's like, "Oh, I didn't see anything." He's like, "No, I want you to see anything. Tell everyone what a great job I did, and I'm the best spy you ever saw." And Lloyd's like, "This is insane. This man is an insane spy."
This is not how being a spy works.
So Lloyd, after the guy leaves, looks, and he had ruined Damien's test. He thought he was there to fix it. Or Lloyd thought he was there to fix it, but he actually ruined Damien's test. So he fixes Damien's test and then looks at Anya's test, finds out Anya didn't fail. She barely passed. So he doesn't touch her test. And then, when this Daybreak, he gets fired because his mission failed. Oh no, this is where Damien gets his Stella. Sorry, not from the Griffin, for the midterm test. Then the next episode ties back into this. We get this kid named George, and his family's pharmaceutical company has been bought out by Damien's family, and he thinks this is like the end of his school career because his family's going to be desolate. So
his dad says, "Yeah, I'm not going to be CEO anymore."
Right, he overhears him say that.
It didn't say he was going to be fired or destitute.
Right.
Just, I'm not going to be CEO anymore. That's all he heard.
So we find out he's the one who hired Daybreak and fired him.
Actually,
tried-
no, well, who are you saying is the one that did it?
George.
Yes, through his butler. That's right. I thought you were saying the dad did it, but no, the boy did it.
George had hired Daybreak. He tries
With
to
his
frame
allowance.
Damien again, but Anya stands up for him. Oh, she makes
With a
it
cigarette
weird.
butt, right?
And then a fake punch.
And a
Yeah.
fake punch. And then like when Anya defends him, the teacher's like, "That kid's weird. I want to go." It just walks away instead of dealing with it.
How elegant.
This eventually they confront George, and he's like, yeah, he tells them what happened, and he's like, "This is my last day, and all I ever wanted was a juice." And so they give him a juice. He's like, "I'll never be able to buy this food from the cafeteria again."
Caviar.
The caviar, that's right. So Damien buys him the caviar, and everyone starts giving him goodbye gifts. And they all sing a song together, the song that you sing when you graduate from first grade. They all sing it together so that he can be a part of it. And he leaves for home for the last time, and finds out that his company is not desolate. They're being supported by this new company.
It's
His
just
dad,
restructure.
yeah, it's a restructure.
Yeah.
He's fine, and he has to go to school the next day, and everyone hates him.
They're all like, you better give everything back.
Yeah, Becky was like glares at him. And says, "You better give everything back."
The best joke of this, though, is when Becky starts the song. Anya looks over and goes, "Are you serious?"
Yeah. You're actually gonna sing this?
Okay, so then again, another little mini story. Anya running late for school, barely makes it on the bus on time, and Yor, who has half a day off today, sees that she forgot her gym clothes, and we see Yor parkour across the entire city, basically like Spider-Man without webs.
The spider ghost lady.
That's right. They're talking about how this classroom's haunted, and she like crawls across the window, and they think it's a
The
ghost.
kid just screams.
It's freaking out. Lloyd sees her because what he actually does is spy in the school most of his days. And she gets the uniform to Anya, and Anya's like, I don't have PEs today. So Yor goes home defeated, but Lloyd goes and takes her out to lunch because he wants to figure out why she was there, and then tries to make her feel better. Oh, I love this. I love this episode. So Anya gets a class assignment where they have to investigate a profession, and it can be one of their parents, or it could be any profession they want, but most are going to do their parents. Is how it's framed. So she goes home and she tells Yor, and we get this whole elaborate sequence in Yor's mind, which Anya gets to watch, of her taking her on an assassination and just murdering people, getting blood all over her.
And this is how you do it. You want to make sure you hit this artery.
We'll tell everyone was it tomato juice on you or something like that?
It's like we went to a tomato festival.
So Anya goes, I'll do Lloyd.
Yeah.
So so Lloyd takes her to the hospital and is telling her all about being a psychiatrist, but he keeps thinking about how it's similar to his spy work. And whenever he thinks about spy work, she starts writing down notes, and he's like, I'm not talking. Why are you writing notes?
I thought it was impressive that they put up this front at such an elaborate scale. I thought it was going to be, oh yeah, I'm a doctor. And then he goes off and does missions. And, like, there's no second thought to the whole.
But he's actually seeing patients.
But yeah, he's actually got a practice. They've got a bunch of infiltrated staff there to act as, support.
He's even got like exfiltration points in the room where he can escape.
So yeah, after meeting the staff, he takes her to the consultation room, but then he has to go deal with something. But he thinks about the secret passage that he has, and she's like, "Ooh, a secret passage!" And he's like, "No, you just stay on the couch." She's like, "Yeah, I will. Secret passage." He leaves. She opens the secret passage. He goes crawling die hard through the vents, right? And she comes across this meeting where they're discussing the existence of ghosts or patients who believe in ghosts, and they're like, yeah, these people are crazy. They're not real. But she starts making noise in the vents, and they're like, it's a ghost. It's real. It's all real.
I think my favorite part was when she comes back and she knows that she has very short period of time to put stuff inside of the sandbox, and so she just dumps everything in, and that's supposed to be a way to evaluate her psyche. So he sees it as like, oh, I've been neglecting my duties. This child is in terrible mental shape.
Needs attention.
It's complete chaos.
In. Yeah.
Never seen this before. And then he picks up her notepad to see what she wrote. She's like, oh no, I wrote all the spy notes. But Anya's handwriting is terrible. This is a repeat of a joke. They did this when they visited the museum and she drew them doing their jobs, but she's such a bad artist they couldn't tell. But it still made me laugh, even though you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
She gives her report, but mixes up the two professions, so it sounds like he extorts his patients and beats them up.
Yes.
And Lloyd, they say that Lloyd had to go to the school and explain, but all the kids now think he's a blackmailing, physically abusive doctor.
Yeah.
Classic stuff.
Well, Yor even made a callback, like, you should see his amazing physical therapy he does.
Yep. Which is a great callback, because, again, normally something like that would just be like, yeah, we did that. That was funny. But this comedy makes sure that everything's connected. Everything is remembered.
I had forgotten about that until she brought it up, to be honest.
Yeah.
The next episode is Anya seeing an episode of her cartoon about coded messages and running around giving everyone coded messages. And whenever they're like, what is this? She just like gives them that smile. Yeah. But Frankie thinks it's from a hot woman and goes to meet them on the bridge. And Anya, who had set the meeting time, sleeps through her alarm. So Frankie just sits there alone.
Which is perfect for poor Frankie.
Yep. I thought everyone was going to show up on the bridge, but only Frankie came. No one else tried that.
He's the only one that looked at it and was like immediately knew it was a cipher.
Right.
Which is really funny because if you look at what she actually prepared, it's literally just like a matrix. And then you use XY coordinates for each letter. It's like the simplest possible cipher.
Oh, it's from a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. But like nobody else even bothered to try and decipher it.
Right.
Or maybe they did it and they were just like, nah, this was just Herbie. It's silly. I'm not going. I thought that was great.
All right, Jason, Would you like to tell us about the character Fiona? 'Cause you kind of started already, so we might as well take it away.
So yeah, when you said iron, I immediately thought of this character because even her hair is white, is like because she's a woman of frost or something like that.
Yep.
And she was directly trained by Lloyd, and she's an amazing spy, but she's also very ambitious and cutthroat, and she's willing to do whatever she needs to do to get ahead, is what the reputation she's had. And so she seems disapproving of Project Strix, and so she asks Handler about it, and Handler's like, "You don't need to use this to get ahead. It's fine. It's going along swimmingly." And then we get this internal monologue of, "Well, I should be the wife, not that other one, because I'm in love with Lloyd."
Yes. And I love it, like whenever she gets going with these inner monologues, and it starts happening a lot. Every anime that we watch where there's romance, strong romance, and one of the characters, usually the female character, will be like, I don't know if I'm getting this right, but it's like Tsuki or something like that. It's like the I love you, I love you, I love you that they say over and over again. And so hearing it come out of this woman as she's monologuing, and she's like so mean and so tough, but you see this side of her, and she's just like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, just repeating it over and over again. It just cracks me up so bad because I see like Rem and her moments with Subaru where it's like this super serious thing, right?
Right.
But this lady is just, I don't know, she's really funny.
So
I love that she can do the coded like body language and like communicate with other spies that way. But when she says in that coded language, or like she's trying to convey this strong emotional feeling of I love you, Lloyd always misinterprets it as dagger eyes, and wow, she has it out for me. What did I do wrong?
Yep.
Well, Lloyd kind of thinks that about everyone too. He thinks that with
Sure.
Yor too. Whenever she looks sad or upset, what did I do? She's mad at me. So I think she's a good character. I really enjoyed her role. I really like that they gave Lloyd or Yor a romantic rival, so to speak, that also kind of threatens the family stability. A new supporting character. But you guys both mentioned her as your favorite character when we were doing our pre-show. So what is it about her you love so much?
I think it's more of her insertion into the story. So she's a good character on her own. I like that, her tenacity, her willingness to dive into situations in order to complete a mission, and that she's a skilled spy. But I think what kind of tips it is this overwhelming infatuation with her trainer, and also that she's got this competition going with someone that she's never met, and or that person knows that they're in a competition with her to begin with. Like ends up becoming apparent later, but at first it's very much she has no idea what's going on. So this whole her attempting to insert herself into Twilight's mission is probably the best part, because it's what I enjoyed most and I thought was funniest.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing here. It was because the motivation that you're given for it at first is that, she wants to be the best spy, and she's just really ambitious, and she'll even stab Twilight in the back if she has to, right? That's the sole purpose behind why she's striving for, becoming a part of this mission. And she'll even go against the handler's wishes and the handler's orders to do this, right? Like she'll stab anyone in the back. And then you find out that instead you just have like this schoolgirl crush that she has on her mentor. And so that is just, it's such a good dichotomy of how she presents herself, how everybody else sees her is one way, yeah, and then how she actually is internally is completely different. And that joke, to me, that contradiction joke, is just really funny. And then when you combine with it the antics of the tennis arc, and how, like, there's even a scene in there where her hands are all blistered and bloodied up and everything because she's trying so hard, but it's all for that same reason, right? Again,
Right.
it looks like she's just trying to be a really, really good agent, but that's not why. She's doing it because she really loves him. I love you, I love you, I love you. Right? And so I don't know. That joke to me lands really well. I think it's super funny.
And also it really cracked me up that she disappeared into the mountains to
Yeah.
get better for Twilight.
All right, we'll get
Like
there. We'll
she
get
has
there.
all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
seriousness and ambition because she'll use it here too. It's wildly
So
out
she's
of focus here.
she's obviously going to make a return, just not
Yeah.
for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a train.
So she in the story, we see her meet with Sylvia, and she's like, "Hey, as about Operation Strix," and Sylvia's like, "No need to get involved. Everything's fine." And she does work at the hospital, so she's already supporting Lloyd in some ways. But she goes to their house when she knows that Lloyd's gone to confront Yor, um, to kind of test her out, see, okay, is there a weakness here? Is there a chance to get her out of the door? She wants to be the fake wife so that
And
she
technically
becomes
this
the
is
real wife.
Mm-hmm.
and technically this is going against Sylvia's orders.
Yes,
Like Sylvia
yes.
was like, stay out of it, and she inserts herself anyways.
They kind of verbally spar. She's like, "Hey, is it annoying having to put up with someone else's kid?" And Yor's like, "No, I love it here."
I
And
love
then she's
Anya in all of this too. Anya.
well, she's not here yet. So
Oh, she wasn't here yet? Oh, I thought she
yeah,
was.
so it's important that Fiona starts telling us a lie that Lloyd's been complaining about, and then Lloyd walks into the door because a thunderstorm had shown up and they got home early from their walk. And this is when Anya walks in. And up to this point, we still thought this was more mission related, and then Anya reads her mind, and that's where we hear love, 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 love.
And it's overwhelming. Anya's like, oh God.
And we get all kinds of things like if I was, I think it might be later. If I was training this girl, I'd be whipping her into shape, and it shows her like whipping her around. But yeah, she's super intense, and Lloyd's confronting her like, "What are you doing? Is there an emergency that you would be here?" While saying different words because they have that coded way of talking.
That was one of the silliest spy things I've seen in this show yet. Like to ventriloquist your words out while you're using your lips to form other words that someone will lip read. Like that is just insane.
Yeah, and they have this big argument about it too, about like, hey, you don't need to be here. You should probably be leaving. No, you have grown weak, Twilight. Well, let me tell you about Operation Strix, and let me read every word from the dictionary. Like, okay, that's a lot of coded messages. Someone's gonna see it.
While simultaneously saying, yes, onions are a great deal right now at the supermarket, and tomatoes, and I like potatoes too. Stuff like that.
This there's an important part in here though, is where she notes that Lloyd, who had taught her, always have a fake smile, never show emotion, always control what you're showing, and whenever you have to smile genuinely, but always under control. And she's the only person who can see his smile is starting to get real. There's genuine happiness in his smile, and that freaks her out. She leaves quickly. He goes after her to bring her an umbrella, is what he claims, and it's implied that she's crying in the rain. She's heartbroken that someone else is bringing him happiness. And so she doesn't want the umbrella, and then says, "We'll have a mission." And he's like, "Oh, then is that what you came here for?" She's like, "No." She just leaves. So we get the mission later, but yeah, this also plants that seed of doubt in Yor, because she's like, "Well, why did a beautiful woman show up?" I did like that they linked it to a previous storyline. She had Anya's magnifying glass from when she was doing the investigation. We didn't mention that she wore a Sherlock Holmes costume because that's what you wear for an investigation. But yeah, so it linked back to that story. Then we go to another little side story. This is where Anya sees a cartoon where a penguin dies, so she sleeps with her giant stuffed penguin. Bond gets jealous and tears it up. Yor tries to fix it. You killed him worse.
Is it worse?
And then Lloyd has to fix it. She's like, "Well, now he's all scarred." And he's like, "Scars are important to a soldier in duty. They're like medals." He's like, "Well, he's got lots of medals." And then Bond apologizes with Peanuts, and she apologizes for saying she hates him, because she did. And they sign a peace treaty between the penguin and the dog. Okay. Then the tennis arc. So
that's dark.
The mission Fiona has is that there is a painting a rich guy has that's supposed to have a dossier that this other guy created about the secrets that could lead to war. Okay,
basically like evil experiments that if one side found out that the other side had been doing this, it would re-spark war.
Yeah, well, they said they don't know. They said it could be their experiments or the way we killed prisoners of war. So, which I like that they framed it as neither side's really super good. But, they're both sides doing bad things. But anyway, they're worried it could lead to war.
That they kill prisoners of war. So that means she probably did kill those kids in the beginning.
Maybe. Well, this is from during the war between these two countries. It's not from
right.
At this point.
I was just thinking of an overarching policy. But yeah.
And to be fair, I don't remember which side they said. They said one side was doing experiments on people and one side was killing prisoners of war. And they just said we don't know what the secrets would be. Anyway, gotta get the painting. The guy runs an underground tennis tournament. And yes, even the characters are like, that's silly. Yes, it is, but he loves tennis. And it's a no holds barred. You could bring any type of weapon in. You could use any kind of drug. And important, Fiona enters them as a married couple.
Yep.
Lloyd's like, that didn't seem necessary. She's like, no, it was. Don't worry about it. So they battle for some old tennis pros and they win easily because they have super spy powers. Again, Lloyd is Batman. And you're Superman. Yeah. That's my theory. But yeah, so
at least Captain America.
Lloyd.
What is the name? They have a name for their team. What is their family name?
Phony.
That's what it was. The Phony family.
Which is great. So the spy names they choose are always like literally pointing out they're fake. We're the forgers. We're the phonies.
Yes.
That's pretty good. All right, so they beat the old pros, and then these two guys come out that are juiced up. They're basically Hulks. They take steroids and turn into these giant monstrosities. And they make fun of Lloyd, who's wearing a wig, but they're like, oh, look at the little puny man. And so Fiona murders them with tennis. They have welts all over them from tennis balls. So they win that one. And then they go to the finals, which is against the son and daughter of the guy running the tournament, but they're locked in a room. And while they're talking about like resting, he's pointing out her hands getting injured because she's trying too hard, and she's thinking love, love, love. They notice gas starts getting pumped into the room, and they can't get out, so they get close to the ceiling to minimize the effects. But then they go out and they have to play against these guys there,
and they hold their breath for 10 minutes.
But they still get a lot of gas. So they're not playing as good. And the son has a rocket-propelled tennis racket, and the daughter has a whip racket, like it could shoot out and hit ball far away. And they just get destroyed in the first set. And everyone's like, oh, they're going to lose. Well, they start getting better in the second set because the gas is reduced. But then little tiles in the floor start rising up and down. They have a guy controlling the ground. But they're so fast they can use that to their advantage and dodge them. So they win the second set, and then the third set starts, and the bad guys start using a sniper in the vents to shoot at them. Lloyd takes a bullet for Fiona, but it's a rubber bullet, and he's like, "Okay, so we can't see the sniper, so we just have to be dodging."
And she's completely enamored that he would take a bullet for her.
Uh-huh. And then he reveals that he's also wearing like a Kevlar vest under all of this,
in case, because he's all prepared for anything. They might have had a sniper.
Yep.
I love this scene. So Lloyd goes to do a serve, and he realizes the sniper's about to shoot. So he just like starts flailing randomly, but still hits it so hard.
Something to drink. He's still drunk.
He hits it so hard. He still aces it. It is a beautifully animated scene. It's so silly and cool at the same time. I don't know if there's a word for it, but I loved it.
And then there's another hit that he does where he catches not just the ball, but the rubber bullet that was fired at him.
Hits it into the sun.
He hits the sun with the bullet.
We have to talk about the other shooters. The ball boys have little guns in their sweatbands on their wrists, so they're shooting at them too. So they're being shot at 3 different directions. The tiles are dropping, and it doesn't matter. They're just like flying all over the court, and they win the 3rd set. And they beat him so bad, the son's like, "I'm gonna turn my life around."
Yeah.
Taught me humility.
I'm gonna do this for real. This is what, and I immediately thought of Blue Lock, who's like, "This is what defeat feels like."
Yeah. Yes.
They request the painting because they're allowed to pick any piece of art from the guy's collection. That's the prize, and they request the painting they're there to get, but they're denied the painting because the state has already requested it before they could. So Fiona goes and she picks out some jewelry while this servant gets the picture ready for the State Department. But it turns out the servant was actually Lloyd in disguise, and he got the real painting, and they get away. He has Fiona drop him off early. He's like, "I don't want to be seen walking like with another woman coming home. Like, you gotta drop me off at the park." But Yor and Anya are in the park practicing tennis because Yor had helped him practice tennis the day before, and Anya had so much fun she wanted to keep doing it. She's great at hitting home runs.
That was a great line.
That's a good one. So Fiona challenges Yor to a tennis match to prove once and for all she'd be the superior wife.
They don't even have a net. They just draw it out in the dirt.
Yeah.
Because she's so desperate to beat Yor at something.
So Yor serves and the ball just falls to the ground. And
It looks
Fiona's
like she missed.
Oh my god, she's so pathetic. And then the ball falls into little pieces. And I remember Fiona said, "Go all out," and Yor's like, "Okay, I will." And Lloyd's like, "No, no,
No,
No, don't do that.
And she slices the ball, and Yor's like, "I did it again. That's right. I can't go all out. I have to hold back just a little bit."
And
So she-
Fiona's like, "Hold on, is this happening? Am I seeing what I'm seeing?"
So Yor hits the ball, and this time it goes subsonic at Fiona, who's like, "No, I will hit it." And she does this big anime swing and catches it. And she's like, "My love will overpower this ball." And then her racket shatters. So
And the
she
ball
swears,
continues past her and
yeah.
then hits a tree and craters into the tree. It wasn't even slowed down.
So Fiona vows a revenge match in the future and drives off to go live in the mountains to train in tennis. And this is where Yor declares, "I won, I won." I think that's a really important moment too.
Mm-hmm.
And Lloyd's like, "I'm tired." They reveal the secrets of the dossier, and it was nothing. It was literally a guy who really liked young actresses, but not like in a weird way. But his wife didn't like it, so he started hiding it, and he knew she'd be really mad if she ever found it. So this was the secret location of his young actress collection of pictures.
Yep.
But
and the war it would cause was in his own household.
Yep, it was a household war. In it is a picture of this man and his family, and Lloyd goes and buys treats for his wife and daughter, thinking about them for the first time. But we see that Yor is at home worried. And yeah, so she's freaking out that she's going to be upset. And so Lloyd, picking up on this, has Frankie babysit, who's not happy about it. He gets paid like $10,000. So.
That's so funny. Like, "You can't buy me off with money." And he hands him a stack of cash. He's like, "All right, Anya, let's go play."
Lloyd takes her out to a bar, and she thinks they're there to break up. She thinks, okay, he's actually going to pick Fiona over me. So she's like, "Oh, I'll just wish him well." And she wants to tell him that, but she can't. Something's stopping her from telling her, so she gets drunk. And she drinks a whole bottle of whiskey, I think.
So we get a very similar scene of the castle scene.
Yeah.
Yep.
More baby talk in this one.
Yeah, and she's like, "Do you love her?"
Exactly. Lloyd.
You said I was. She says, "You said I was pretty too." And Lloyd's like, "I don't know what's happening, but I think Yor has real feelings for me." And it shows a timer that for 0.1 seconds, he is shocked by this. And then he decides, okay, I'm going to use this. I can use this. And he's like,
I've been in relationships before for missions. I can do
Right.
it again.
right.
Mhm.
So he grabs Yor's hand. And he's like, hey, I understand the way you feel. Let's get married for real. And she kicks him so hard he flies across the room, manages to land on his feet because he's Lloyd. And he says to himself, there was no love in that kick. I was so wrong. What's funny, though, is he's not. Yours clearly falling for Lloyd, and Lloyd has no way of reading it. But he does point out he has no defense against her. Like, his guard is all the way down on her. And Jeremy, I know it still bugs you that he's not picking up on it, and I get that, but she is this weird blind spot for him, and I think that's important to the fact that she's the one he's going to fall in love with because of that blind spot. And that's, if it was any other character, he would have picked up she was an assassin by now. But because for some reason you're just gunks up the works in his brain, he cannot figure it out.
Now, when you say that he has a blind spot for her, that's not something that's established by anything in the anime, right? That's
Except for
Just
his
a way-
feelings.
Yes,
explaining it?
yes,
Like-
there is. Okay, when he first meets her, she literally sneaks up on him, so she literally gets into his blind spot. But that
Okay.
is also
That's-
literal.
Yeah, okay, that's a literal way to say it. But I guess the reason I'm asking is because there's lots of times where he's suspicious. It's just that those suspicions get quieted right away.
But he also feels guilty after he's suspicious, rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
just like I was just doing
It's
my
true.
job. And there's this whole. It's done as a joke, but I think that 0.1 second clock thing is also important. I think normal Twilight doesn't need 0.1 seconds to figure out I'm going to use
Mhm.
this.
Instantaneous.
I think that's his weakness around Yor, and the fact that he can't figure out what her real feelings are for him, even though to everyone else it seems pretty obvious. I mean, even Anya is like, Mama and Daddy are shacking up right now.
Another thing doesn't know what she's saying.
I don't think in the first half or this half anything's ever made Lloyd lose consciousness. But after this kick, he's able to stay awake for a little bit, but then he loses consciousness.
Yes.
As
yes.
because she's got super soldier serum in her. Just saying.
Yeah. No, I agree with both you guys. There's something special about her. But this was one of my favorite scenes because this was an opportunity for the show to take a very different direction with their relationship, and it made perfect sense because that's what a spy would do. He's like, oh, I'm gonna honey trap her. That's perfect. Okay. But this is also exactly what Yor would do, especially drunk Yor would do. And so it was a great way to kick them back onto the track that they're currently on, while exploring. So how do we eliminate this potential direction that things could go? Right? Because that would always be there. If Lloyd didn't try to take that at some future time, if they hadn't done this and she did express feelings for him and he didn't try to take that, I think that would have been a problem. I know I would have said, why is he just falling for her? Why isn't he using this for his mission? So having them actually do this and eliminate this path, it was a very elegant solution.
This
I
scene
like it a
really, this scene really bugged me because of that reason that
Mm.
they weren't developing the relationship the way I kind of wanted it. But the way you've described it, you've changed my mind. I think you're right, because if we're rooting for this couple to, be a real couple, we need to make sure that Lloyd's not just doing it for the mission, but that he's doing it for himself and Yor.
Yeah.
I also think what comes next really adds to that too. If they had just left it here, then I'd also feel like, oh, I thought you were going to give me a little something to show forward progress on this. But the scene that comes after, where he wakes up, he dreaming of his mother singing to him, and then he's in her lap and she's singing the song, even though she doesn't know all the lyrics. I don't know the words to this song. But then he tells her, because she's like, I'm worried I'm not a good mother. And he's like, you're strong. You're strong like my mother was. He talks about his mother. When do you think is the last time Twilight told anyone anything real about himself ever?
Yeah.
Like that's a huge thing in a spy character arc, right?
Mhm.
So I do feel this moment was really important in their relationship moving forward. And like Jeremy said, instead of making it fake, they pretend like they're going to do this fake way, and then they give us a real, genuine moment with them. I want more, but at least it is something, I think, and I think they delivered it well. I also love that in the morning she doesn't remember any of it, and they have to have the whole conversation again.
Yep.
um. Okay, so then we see back at the school that Anya is spying on Damien. Becky has decided, oh, you must have a crush on him. You must be in love with him. That's what's going on. That's why you're always focusing on Damien. So she's like, I will help you. I'm going to take you on a shopping trip. And so we get this Anya on a fashion spree. But really it's Becky. Anya's like, I don't want any of these clothes. I don't care. We have to wear a uniform. Why would I buy clothes? Anyway. And yet Becky buys like half the store. She rented the department store for the whole day just for herself and Anya. But the only thing Anya buys is this cheap little mascot keychain for her and for Becky. And Becky's like, she really wanted and wanted them to have one, but she has to pretend she's high and mighty. And we see the nanny, like, she'd always had to be high and mighty and better than everyone. That was how she was raised to be, and that's how she acted around everyone. And now, for the first time, she has this genuine friend. And then they both have their keychains.
I love that the maid was, or well, the caretaker. She goes, you wouldn't want to dishonor the family name by not accepting a gracious gift, now would you? Because she was going to reject it because she wanted it for herself, but she's like, I can't buy that. That would be bad for the family name. But
That's commoner stuff, yeah.
right, but she got it as a gift.
The Eden College party is happening in the final episode, and Lloyd's spying on the school, trying to figure out a way to infiltrate it. And we see that Damien has called his brother, asking for his father to meet up with him. So Anya, who's aware of this, is following Damien around, thinking she'll get to the dad and she'll plead the case that he should meet her dad. And Damien gets upset about this because a lot of people are following him around, hoping to meet his dad because they're like fans. And he gets really frustrated and yells at Anya. And meanwhile, Lloyd is spying on them and thinking, and Anya can hear him, and she's like, Dad, where are you? Tries to find him. But Damien's, he's like, no, I guess I'm not going to go. And Anya runs up to him and is like, you're just scared. And I get being scared. My dad always gets mad when I have bad scores, but I know he loves me, so I always show them to him. You need to go talk to your dad. You're just scared because you got that bad test score. And I know you got that bad test score because I saw it. Basically calling him out, and convinces him to go meet his dad. And then she goes and she's like, I'm going to stay here until the dad shows up. And Becky's like, man, she is so in love with him. She is so serious. And Anya instantly falls asleep. And Becky's like, she is not serious at all. But has her maid nanny pick her up, and they drive her Anya home. Lloyd, having a copy of the keychain toy that she had just bought, uses that to be like, because he's Batman. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh no, my daughter lost her toy. I must search the grounds here. Oh, hi, little boy who is waiting for your father. What a coincidence. And goes to the, hey, remember when my daughter punched you? I need to formally apologize. Hey, here is your dad. Hi. So we get to meet Desmond, the yes. target of Lloyd, who is a freak.
Yeah.
That's one way to put it.
He apologizes to him for the assault and is like, let me bring a gift to your home. And the guy's like, no, that's quite all right. Kids will be kids. And poor Damien's like, you don't care I was punched? You're just letting this go? How dare you? But then
boy, did you get a glare.
Yep. Lloyd talks to him about, raising kids. It's hard. And,
okay.
you know.
That cracked me up because we got a shot of the flowchart that he made for his buddy, right?
Mhm.
Mop head, whatever she calls him, scruff head. I can't
Frankie,
remember
yeah.
his name. Yeah, Frankie. And then we also saw a quick shot of the flowchart that Lloyd is using with this guy. And if you look, it actually says, talk about the children, like as a secondary route if the primary one fails. So he literally is doing exactly what his flowchart says during this conversation. It was cracking me up.
I do also think, though, there's some cracks in Lloyd, some realness coming out about the, they're frustrating, and
Yeah.
you think you know them, and then suddenly they're doing things you don't understand. But we do our best.
Yep. I think it's probably like an outline for a talk, right? Like you put the main idea, but then you're gonna fill it with whatever you have.
Desmond reciprocates back, but then Lloyd's like, "No, I gotta end this. I can't make it weird." So he says goodbye, and Damien gets the courage to tell his dad about his star that he won, but also about his bad test score. And his dad doesn't care and leaves.
Yeah. Although he does say, "Well done, keep it up."
Yeah, he does. He does.
That might actually be more than Damien usually gets.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is great. So there's a lot of cool plot stuff happening here. This is obviously a big moment in the whole spy mission. But we also saw that the speech Anya gave had a major effect on Damien, pushed him forward, pushed him into character growth. There's, again, really good writing for just a silly comedy show that's going on here. But Lloyd goes home to his family, and that ends the season. I'll just say here at the end, this better end with Lloyd picking family over mission. Even if he still does the mission, like this, that better be the point of the story. If this ends with there's a episode where Lloyd's like, when this is over, I'll still check in on them, but he's like sad about it. He's like sad, like someday I won't be with these guys and the mission will be over. I'll still check in on them from time to time, though, he says. And I'm like, we better get to where I want this to go, or I'll be so burned by this show.
I'll be protesting and putting forth petitions and getting 35,000 signatures to change the plot.
Why did Troy fly to Japan? Well, he's got a picket sign outside of the...
That's right.
I heard the manga writer is like, I want to do other stuff. I don't want to keep writing Spy Family. I'm like, you finish it. Any last thoughts that you guys have? Come to the close.
Yours got super serum.
She's got something.
I would have laughed that off in part 1, but now in part 2, yeah,
it's a thing.
Maybe.
When she's Spider-Manning all over the place, parkouring across the city, and she's... Yeah. It would have been a gag if she had just like shattered the ball and like no one reacted to it, but multiple people reacted to it. It's like, well,
they're acknowledging that she's inhumane.
We had talked about the dodgeball in part 1, like how she blew down trees, right, when she threw the dodgeball.
Right.
We were like, oh, that might be just a joke.
Yeah,
she kicked the car into a building. In motion car into a building, and that had an effect on the plot. Like that guy was stuck now because of his car wreck, and she was able to call the cops on him.
Yeah.
So that wasn't just a sight gag.
Nope.
Right.
I'm fine if she's not. I'm fine with there being a superhuman lady with no reasonable explanation. That's not what I'm here for. It's cool, but also, yeah, they could be like, when Yor was 15 and her parents died, she got a super soldier serum.
I think that would be an interesting way to explain how she's so successful as an assassin.
Mm-hmm. And I also think it'd be a missed opportunity if they don't give like some kind of explanation that ties her into some greater story. Like there's got to be something. It could even be tied in with Anya and the experiments being done on her. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
What I'm really eager for is how her work either conflicts or helps Lloyd, because we don't really know much about her targets. She says they're always evil people. Even though yours always like, I'll just murder this person. No, they're good. I shouldn't do that. But according to her, she only murders bad people, and she does a lot of studying of the people that she murders, according to her. But I mean, she seems to be on the opposite side of Lloyd, country-wise, even though she's a private. She's not government worker. She works in the private sector. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see if they conflict or if they're actually in alignment with each other. Like, hey, Twilight, we're sending you on a mission with the Thorn Princess because of we need her help, and they end up meeting each other. Ooh, that'd be good. I just wrote Spy Family.
Probably
All
the
right,
last season.
let's go to final reviews. Jason, what'd you give it?
I have very few nitpicks, let alone no complaints. This has captivated my attention during and after. I still think about little plot lines here and there, and the story didn't leave me like really hating the cliffhanger. I'm excited for more. So this is a flat out 5 for me.
Jeremy, how about you?
It's definitely a 5 for me as well. This is not the kind of anime that I generally prefer to watch. I normally think that something like this, that's more oriented on just like it's got a fair amount of slice of life. Now, not enough to make it a slice of life in my book, but enough to where I normally wouldn't even try the show. But I'm glad I did. This is definitely worth watching. It has enough action. It's got a lot of comedy. It's got some good romantic scenes, very heartwarming. So yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Yep, 5 for me too. I was pleasantly surprised that part 2 I felt held up just as well as part 1. We had talked about in part 1 the Penguin episode and how they brought Lloyd's mission and tied it all together, and I was almost bummed that was just a filler episode because like that's the perfect format. And they kind of did it twice in bigger story arcs now. They're really starting to find their groove. I felt this is totally my jam. I'm already rewatching it, the English dub, with my son. I'm looking forward to more, but if it breaks my heart, I'm gonna be furious.
Won't be the first anime.
No, it wouldn't. All right. Again, our next anime is The Eminence in Shadow. We're only going to be discussing the first 10 episodes for part 1, and then we'll do another podcast where we discuss the final 10 episodes. If you have any thoughts on Spy Family or anything else we've discussed, please feel free to reach out to us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast or our website, theanimebakaclub.com, on the Contact Us button. Or you can reach us wherever you found this podcast. Comments usually get to us. Unless you've been writing to us every week and we haven't responded, that probably didn't get to us. If you commented on YouTube and we didn't respond, that's because I was super lazy, and I am so sorry. We will get back to you.
Also, make sure you give us the updates and the star ratings. We'd really appreciate any.
And the retweets and the subscribes and the.
And tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends. Be like, I listen to an anime podcast, and everyone should know that.
Mm-hmm.
And you should watch it too, or listen.
Yeah, do both.
All right, before we say goodbye, real question. Do you guys tell other people you do an anime podcast?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
I actually got some pretty cool information. I don't know if you can leave this in the podcast or you can take it out. There's actually somebody over here who was, I was told, responsible for bringing Dragon Ball Z to the United States. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, so I get to meet him at some point in the near future, and that's going to be really cool. I'll have some stories.
One time at work, someone at work told somebody else about my podcast, and my work was going to do a podcast. They're like, how do you do a podcast? I'm like, I don't know. We just talk on microphones. We're not examples. All right.
We kind of trip our way through it.
Thank you for everyone who does listen to us, though. We love engaging with you guys. We love getting to talk on these microphones, and it's all thanks to you guys. So we appreciate our audience very much. We didn't believe you'd ever exist, but you do, and you're awesome.
Very awesome.
We give you a 5 out of 5.
10 out of 5.
Jason, he gives you a 3 out of 5. All right, let's say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Sayonara.